And now, an 8th special presentation.
In this edition of Art Beat Nation, see how art intersects with science.
I definitely do not have a scientific background at all, but I've always been fascinated with the way things work.
Learn where music meets art.
The reason that I make art is for the feeling that it gives me physically.
Meet artists and environmentalists sending a strong message.
We decided to use the idea of blue trees because blue trees don't exist in nature.
And art that highlights nature.
I still paint those images because of that wonderful change of season and color.
It's all ahead on Art Beat Nation. Funding for Art Beat Nation is made possible by contributions to 8 from viewers like you. Thank you. Talmadge Doyle from Eugene, Oregon is known for the intersection between science and art and how it informs her printmaking. Doyle etches and prints copper plates featuring nature of the Northwest. These days, she's researching a new body of work about owls.
Talmadge Doyle starts her afternoon at the Cascade Raptor Center in Eugene. As an artist in need of inspiration, she knows what to do.
I just kind of let go of the old and the new comes in. I just kind of wait and see what I'm interested in. And right now, I went to the Raptor Center and saw these incredible raptors, one in particular that I'm in love with. The Eurasian eagle owl, Dimitri, and I just was so fascinated with him I had to start drawing him. And he was just one of the most beautiful creatures.
Drawing Dimitri led her to an interest in learning more about owls.
Just looking at this beautiful owl, there's something that's, indescribable that science can't really define, or we can't really define in words, but it's almost mystical, just the beauty of this creature. And it's just fascinating how he functions.
In more than 2 decades as a printmaker, Talmadge has created many distinctive series.
Since I do a lot of etching, people usually recognize my work as etching. And many of my prints tend to actually look like they're old, like they might be antique, but on closer inspection you can see that they're not. My work always has an element of the natural world, nature, whether it be plants or animals, and also an element of science and history. So the subject matter of science and history always creeps in there in some way.
These themes are evident in her most recent project, a public art installation at the Ford Alumni Center at the University of Oregon.
That took place over the period of about 10 months. I etched and painted and sealed 21 copper plates of images of flora and fauna of the Northwest.
Usually, Talmadge exhibits prints that she makes from the copper plates. This project is unusual because it's her etched copper plates that are on permanent display.
It was really interesting. It was the first time I did a large project that I didn't know what it was going to look like at the very end until the day I installed it. But the day I installed it was a great day. I was very happy because all of a sudden I could see it. It was like nothing I'd ever done before, where, I do etchings for a show and you could see it come along and the whole process. It was a brand new process, etching plates for a public art project. So it was a whole new ball of wax.
With the installation finished, Talmadge doesn't know what direction her work will take.
Earlier in my career, I would definitely have anxiety about that. Oh, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? But as the years go by and the work progresses, I feel like the ideas just multiply. So there's no question of, oh no, what am I going to do? It's what am I going to choose to do? You know, all these options. This stage is really very much about inventing the image and imagining the possibilities about what the image could be and imagining the different directions that I want the series to go through. Because I'm not just creating one image here, I'm creating a whole series of images from probably 5 or 6 plates. So this is definitely the imagination stage. I collect all kinds of books with images about science, about astronomy, alchemy, birds. I like looking at other artists' prints that I'm very interested in because it makes me expand my repertoire of technique and push myself to get out of habits that I've acquired. You know, we all as artists acquire habits, and just sort of expand, loosen up, do things in different ways, different light quality, different kinds of line.
Drawing was her first love and her undergraduate degree from the Cleveland Art Institute. She moved to Eugene more than 20 years ago for a graduate degree in printmaking. The detail in her work makes some people presume she's a scientist.
I definitely do not have a scientific background at all. But I've always been fascinated with the way things work, the way things connect together, with the way things function together in nature. And I think that's where my interest in science comes into the work.
Without knowing if the imagination stage will last days or weeks, Talmadge sketches and researches, waiting for inspiration to arrive. After all these years, she trusts that her exploration is as important as the destination.
Scientists, for example, will work and experiment, and when they stumble upon discoveries, you know, sometimes it's a surprise, and the same is true of printmaking. You know, sometimes there's really interesting surprises that happen on the plate.
She's still months away from making an actual print, applying ink to an etched plate, rolling it through a press, and revealing the image. She looks forward to that experience every time.
I've been doing this process over 20 years, and still, every time I peel the paper off the copper plate to see the image, it is still a surprise. Sometimes a good surprise, sometimes not a good surprise, but it's always a surprise.
To learn more, visit talmadgedoyle.com. Now we meet Alan Denny Smith, a professional artist who began his fine arts career working as a museum curator. For Smith, making art is a visceral experience and a meditation.
Abstract art is hard for people to understand. It's not hard to understand if you think about it in terms of other things, like music. If you're listening to classical music, it's abstract. It's just these sounds that are kind of ricocheting around, and they come together in melodies, and my work does the same sort of thing. It comes together in some sort of a melody. Sometimes it's a cacophonous kind of a wow, bang, 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 and sometimes it's a little bit more like a country song where it's a little more obvious. My grandmother gave me my first box of oil paints. She bought it at a country sale in Pennsylvania. Oil paint is such a wonderful medium. You can really make all kinds of colors. It covers well, it works fast, and it's just luscious to get your brush and your palette knife into. I paint in watercolor and in oil with pencils and crayons. My name is Alan Smith, but most of my friends know me as Denny. I'm a professional artist. I'm most comfortable in the realm of abstract and minimalist artwork, kind of reducing elements to a simple form. I'm fascinated by color. Many of my paintings are simply color studies. Sometimes I'll see a scene out in the world that amuses me or intrigues me, or someone may make a suggestion, and so I'll sometimes make a painting that looks like something, but more often than not I prefer just working in clearly a very simple and abstract way. I have a painting called Falling Square, which was really based on a road sign that I drove past on a really cold morning when the sun was baking the ice off the road sign. There was a steam coming around it. I've made 5 Bonchance watercolors. 4 of them were in color and 1 was black and white. For each of the color paintings, the colors were chosen at random. I chose colors out of a box with my eyes closed. And then I determined the order of placement of color on the lines by the toss of a coin, 468 times for each painting. This is the record of which color went where on each line. I don't really draw like Michelangelo and Leonardo. I draw like Denny. I use my Crayola crayons because it makes me feel good. And when I start a painting, I like to just make the surface dirty. And so these are ways that I can do this relatively easily and quickly. One part here. Now, sometimes I start with these paint sticks, sometimes I will use them later, sometimes I don't use them at all. And then I bring over my paint and my brushes. I'll be back. I'm using these wonderful script brushes, long hair, they hold paint, a lot of paint. They come to a point so that I can really draw long, lovely, swirling things. And frankly, this is what I like doing best. I make the art that I like to make, and the reason that I make art is for the feeling that it gives me physically. It's the experience of doing, of grinding that pencil across a surface, or waving both of my arms with crayons, or making a big splash with a paintbrush. You can always see my hand, the way my hand moves. And so everything is a record of where my hand has been. These are not drips, it's not thrown paint, it's not just happenstance, it's actually a record of where my hand has been. It is kind of like a map of my mind. Each of these things is like the synapses that are running through your brain. I'm trying to allow myself the same kind of mindfulness or mindlessness that a meditation process does, where you just let yourself go, kind of an automatic writing. I'm not really trying, frankly, to do anything other than let myself move, and I happen to like to do it with color.
To learn more, visit alanzsmith.com. Australian artist Konstantin Demopoulos is on a mission. He travels internationally to paint trees blue to bring awareness to ecological issues around the world. He recently traveled to Houston, Texas, where he left his mark.
This is part of an arts project that started in 2003, and I noticed how incredibly devastating deforestation was, where we're losing the size of Belgium. That's what was described every year of old forests. And everyone said, well, how can we get that in the front pages of the paper instead of always as a postscript? And I just thought about it, and I said, well, why don't we, almost like a guerrilla attack, go and colour them? Because although the forests are disappearing hundreds of miles away from the urban community, but we don't see that. We decided to use the idea of blue trees because blue trees don't exist in nature. You have red, you have yellow, but the color blue on a tree doesn't exist. There are flowers that are blue. And so that whole idea of creating something that is surreal started to come about, because then you notice something. The thing that kind of engaged me initially was when I saw the first grove of trees. It's the color and the trees and the green, and then the change of seasons as it becomes this incredibly beautiful landscape. So it has a surreal nature, but it is also quite beautiful. The pigment we use is totally safe for trees. It's ultramarine blue, and it's one of the most ancient of colors. It's a mineral, so it was made from a stone, and you crushed it, and then you added water. It's basically the way you do al fresco. The pigment isn't supposed to last forever. It's an ephemeral work, and part of what the idea of this art project is about transformation. It's about change and how quickly things go into desert. A lot of people say, what can we do? Part of social art is also that we put something out and then we say to people, well, this is what you can do. If you have any ideas, put them forward. There could be a school child here in Houston or in Seattle or in Sacramento who in the future comes up with the actual answer to deforestation and housing. It is the young people today, rather than I think the staid people, that can change it. You don't have to have a PhD to change your environment, you just have to have an idea. I think you've got to kind of relook at the importance of trees and where they will affect you financially through climate change, through a variety of other issues, and really just to continue to question, which is I think what art is about. I'd love to be a redwood. I'd love to be a redwood. If you stand next to one, which I have done, it's almost as close to being to God as you can possibly be. And I love the way that they give us oxygen. So if God is that person that breathes life into us, that's what these trees do. They give us life. And I think it's an incredible disrespect to nature for us to do what we're doing. I'm not anti-forestry, but I am about sustainable forestry, managed forestry. Ecocide is not an option anymore. We don't have 3 more hundred years.
Native to a part of Texas that typically only experiences one climate, Arnold Alanis has become enamored with the changing seasons of his new home state of Wisconsin. Alanis has created works revolving around the ever-changing foliage and scenery.
I like to keep the background coming through the front so it isn't so solid. Hence I leave some spaces in between.
He's known for his delicate landscapes of Wisconsin's North Woods, but Arnold Alanis grew up under the hot Texas sun, miles away from what has become his favorite subject.
When I grew up, it was in South Texas, along the Gulf Coast, and my idea of landscape were sand dunes, cactus, palm trees. When I received a scholarship to come to Madison to attend the University of Wisconsin, I came face to face with maple trees and oaks and beautiful foliage that changed color in the fall. I saw snow and trees that, evergreens that we only had at Christmas. They were cut down and decorated with, lights and ornaments, but here they were in the wild. I was so impressed that I think to this day I still paint those images because of that wonderful change of season and color. And the woods, I had no woods where I lived. There was scrub grass and mesquite. These are just the preliminary undertones to the piece. It's going to change dramatically over time. But I'm creating the atmospheric look to it, the softness of the background. It has to go from the very beginning. It's just something you just don't put on in one coat. My pieces are inspired by life, by scenes that I see. Especially lately, I've been doing long walks in the woods and in some of the parks here in Door County, and coming upon scenes that I normally would never have seen. and those have kind of found their way into my work. I work primarily in the studio. Even though I get ideas from nature, I'm a studio artist. My work is a combination of large, broad areas of color and detail, and mostly detail. And those are hard to do in the field, so I don't really consider myself a plein air painter as such.
Alaniz is known for his landscapes with their soft, gentle treatment of light and subtle gradations of colors.
The large, flat areas of color take the longest because they're layers upon layers, one over the other, and they have to dry. I work with acrylic, and because of that, the layer that lays on top of the one below becomes transparent. You can see the colors coming through if you work it thin enough. So it gives you the glow, that atmospheric look that is so prevalent in my work. That's the hardest, to lay down the tones. And then, of course, the detail, which many people think is the hardest, but to me, I enjoy that. It's like therapy. That's the part that takes the longest, the building of the tone and the branches, etc., and the little details, the leaves.
Alaniz drew his inspiration from artists of another time.
I think some of the strongest influences during my education were in the work of the Hudson River School artists and also the work of the French Impressionists for their colors. I think some of the landscapes of Turner and some of the school of Impressionism made strong impressions on me, even though I wasn't aware of it at the time. And I think perhaps those are some of the strongest influences. Not so much artists living in my time. My work is somewhat romantic, and when I was in school, that wasn't the end thing to be painting. But I survived it, and I, came out doing the same thing I love to do and making a go of it.
For Alaniz, each work is a delicate blending of realism, romanticism, and impressionism that reveals the tranquil, reflective side of nature.
I've always tried to convey the feeling of awe and kind of solitude that I get in the scenes that I paint. So they're the all-inspiring thing to me, and I use my technique to meet those ends. So I'd have to say it's the scene itself or the image. If it has a message, it's to make people stop and look at the everyday things we take for granted. Scenes that I paint are not necessarily sensational or extraordinary. They're very mundane in their own way, but yet the way I present them gives them a certain importance, a certain majesty. Even the simplest trees have a certain dignity about them that I think is inherent. And it makes people say, oh, wow, look at what I see every day and appreciate it more. And that's part of my message in my work.
To learn more, visit alanizart.com. For more arts and culture, visit azpbs.org/artbeat, where you'll find featured videos and information on the Arizona art scene. Funding for Artbeat Nation was made possible by contributions to AIT from viewers like you. Thank you.